Okay, so welcome. Today I wanted to offer some reflections about boarding school syndrome, boarding school trauma, and also this thing about speaking up, sharing our stories, what went on, why some of us have resistance to that, and why there is that emotional disconnection. So just talk about that a little bit today. Yeah, so this morning I was talking to the Telegraph. A reporter contacted me last week about me sharing my story about boarding school and some of my experiences. And yeah, it's interesting what that's brought up for me. So I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about it today. I think, one of the keys that at school I learned, again, this is different from different schools, but one of them, and reading Richard Beard's book, Sad Little Men, reading Nick Duffel's or Joy Shaverin, is this thing of not speaking up. You'd see something going on, but it was like grasses or telltales. They were the worst thing ever. And generally, I noticed when I was at boarding school, you had maybe one person might grass someone up, but then they were sent to Coventry, no one would talk to them. And so that person learned very quickly that you don't speak up, you don't share anything. And therefore, I think, Nick Duffel talks about this idea of normalized neglect. So essentially, boarding school is, there's a lot of neglect there. We're left 50 children with one adult in a boarding house. And therefore, you know, if we don't speak up, if something is going on, we learn quite quickly, no, it's not a good idea to say anything. And that's why abuse, things like that can go on, because we've just, rather than someone saying, you know what, that's not right, people speaking up, that just doesn't happen. So, so that's kind of one of the reasons I'd say that, we often as ex-boarders don't speak about our experiences. I think as well, for me, I learnt that it was, what am I trying to say here? I think I'll just share. So speaking to the Telegraph reporter today brought up quite a bit of fear for me. It was like, am I going to get found out? How am I going to come across? What are they going to, the school, what are they going to think of me? Am I going to, receive a lot of backlash from it? And yet those experiences that I had were, they were mine. They were real experiences. The reality is a friend did die. He did commit suicide. The reality is the teachers, 6 of my teachers are now in prison. These are facts. But we have this thing, and I had this thing today, this fear, of speaking up. So yeah, that's just kind of come to me. And I think partly we have that is because when we did speak up, at school, you were ostracized. The people who were left alone, the people who kind of seemed to do okay with the people who just ignored what was going on. They didn't speak up. Those who spoke up called loudmouths, or, or you talk too much. It's like, no, keep a lid on it. We don't expose people. So that's come up for me. And yet I see in the work that Nick Duffel does, the work I do in my boarding school circles, is that once we have that safe space as an ex-boarder, or anyone who's been through trauma, when we have that safe space and people are hearing us and they're really listening, and they've kind of had similar experiences, it can be transformational. Nick Duffel talks about that again and again, this idea that when we as ex-boarders hear someone else share and we go, oh my God, I'm not the only one to have thought that. Oh my God, I'm not the only one to have had that experience. And again, I found that on the men's circles I do with ex-boarders. Some people say similar things. It's like, wow, this is so healing, so healing, so profound to hear someone else speak what I've been feeling. So I think, I think partly why we struggle to speak up is that we've learned push it down, do not share anything, your emotions or anything like that. And how we start to heal that is through Nick's work, or my men's circles, or there are also the boarding school survivors networks on Facebook, and we've got the boarding school. I'm pretty sure it's the Survivors Network, which Margaret Lawton organises. So there's quite a lot of organisations which organise events. So I think that's brilliant. And I think this is the other thing with sharing, is just Robert Bly said this, be careful who you share your gold with. I was speaking to someone recently, this idea that sometimes on our recovery journey, speaking up about experiences too early can mean we get a whole load of backlash. And therefore that kind of really unsettles us. I feel on my own journey being able to, I'm passionate about my work. I really want to see and get people to understand the impact that boarding school has, not just on those individuals who've been, but also globally, because so many of our leaders have been to boarding school. And I'm in the first talks about making a film, a documentary, and I've spoken to 2 producers who are interested, and I've spoken to a few others, and it seems like it's gathering a bit of momentum because I'm passionate about that. So the same, the Telegraph reaching out, in the past I might have gone, no way, but now it's like, no, this is important. It's time for this to change. Time for us to heal these things, and not just heal, but then thrive. I love what Bessel van der Kolk says in the back of his book, The Body Keeps the Score, saying that those who are great leaders, some of the great leaders like Nelson Mandela, Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, have been through a lot of trauma, and they've transformed it. And therefore I see that with boarding school, if we can see it as a chance for us to transform, and as Robert Bly again says, tap into our genius. It is through our wounding is where our gold will be found. And I see that as a lot of ex-boarders do not admit their wounding. We all have wounds. We all have wounds. But a lot of us, who've been to boarding school, me included, it was many years I just denied. Oh, I'm fine. I'm drunk again, or, doing silly things. It's like, I'm fine. When we can tap into that, that's where we find our genius, really. So that's just some reflections today, So I'm not sure. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, the article will come out about the Telegraph, and I will let you guys know when it's available. Some of my family read the Telegraph, so I'm going to have to tell them not to buy it that day. But I think it's important to get this message out there more and more, so we can start to heal and transform. So any questions, please do let me know, and thank you so much for your support. Many blessings.